Every single one of you have a message. Every single one of you have a purpose, just like me. But I can remember a time in my life when that didn't feel true, when that didn't feel safe, when that wasn't who I was. When I was little, I was a really cute little kid. I would wear cute little dresses, and I would bounce around in the field, and I would go play with my friends, and I was happy, and I would talk to squirrels, I would talk to flowers. I was just the happiest little bee. And then I remember when I was in school, it might have been around grade 2, grade 3, and I started noticing that not all the other kids were that happy. Not all the other kids were able to have that much fun just by being by themselves and being out in nature. And I started wondering, why? What's different about me? How come they don't get to have all of this joy and this fun and this freedom that I experience in my body, in my life? And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was grade 2. My teacher was Mrs. Bocher. She taught us how to spell it. B-O-E, 2 cups of tea, a sneeze, a chew, and a growly bear. And I remember we had this little group project, and there were 3 of us sitting around a desk together, and she was asking us questions. And my natural response to every single question was, I know, because I knew the answer. But what I noticed was I was sitting in this group, and when I did that, it didn't give them a chance to say their piece, because I was always first. I was always taking that step. And I started realizing that if I was always doing that, but I was always happy and I was already there, maybe if I stepped back and I went, maybe that would give them a chance to speak. So I did. I self-taught myself to repress, to hold back, to not believe that I needed to speak because somebody else did. I was a natural-born leader, a natural-born, happy, free leader. That's what I was meant to do. That's what I was here for. But I taught myself at such a young age that everybody else was more important because I'd already figured it out. So that's grade 2. Fast forward all the way into my teenage years, into my early 20s. And suddenly I had this incredible ability to shut up. And I did not speak my truth, and I did not say what I wanted to say. Even asking for the teeniest things became challenging because I didn't feel safe within myself. I had spent years and years and years telling myself that everybody else needed to say their piece, but mine, there's no space for that. They need to speak first. Once everybody else is taken care of, then there's room for me. Now, I'm sure you can imagine what that would have done to the way that I speak to myself, the thoughts that were going through my head, the verbiage that was happening, the ego that was showing up, telling me that I needed to be quiet, that I needed to be small, that I needed to just keep myself under wraps because everybody else needed to shine. Thinking that I had already had my chance to shine. I was already in the fields, I was playing, I was happy. So what I realized around my mid-20s was that by me being quiet, by me being small, by me just letting everybody else do their thing and be who they were, I wasn't actually making any difference. I had this ability, this crazy, amazing ability to see what is possible and to see what needs to happen. For all of us to be happy, to be healthy, to feel good, to solve problems, whatever it might be, I could see it. But I had lost my ability to speak it. I had lost my ability to actually bring it into fruition. So around my mid-20s is when I really started realizing, by me being quiet, what I see is not happening because I'm not taking my step forward in leadership to help others rise. I'm sitting back here like this. And nobody wants to be with this. This doesn't feel good. This is small. This is crowded. This is scared. So I started playing with it. I got a little adventurous. I started speaking my truth. I started asking for what I wanted. I started considering what it would feel like to be a leader who empowers others to do the same. What would it feel like in my body? What would it feel like in their body if the things that I said, the things that I did, the way I showed up actually impacted the way that they were showing up? What would happen if I had the ability to tap so deeply into my leadership skills, into my happiness, into my joy? What would happen if I did that and that impacted them to do the same for themselves? This is where I connected into what it means to be an empowered leader. Not just a leader, not just someone who dictates or someone who tells you what you're supposed to do, not just your boss. An empowered leader. Someone who is so embodied in themselves, in their physical being, in the way that they think, in the way that they feel in their body. Someone who is so embodied within this that they have no other choice but to help those around them rise. Because when we know our truth, when we know who we are, when we're taking care of ourselves first, when we're playing in the field and dancing and having a good time and enjoying life, this is when we have no other choice but to help others rise. This, to me, is an empowered leader. And when I think about that day in grade 2, when I witnessed that these other kids, they're just kids, weren't able to bring themselves to that same level of happiness, I then bring myself to today. And I look into the audience, the people around me, the people I interact with every day, and I realize there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, a lot of fear. And trust me, I've been through my version of it. I've gone through the elements, and I know I will continue to. But the thing that all of us are missing is our ability to hold each other. Every single one of us here have a message, and every single one of us here have the ability to be an empowered leader, to help others rise. And you know how? Do you want to know how? I'll give you a little secret. It starts here. This is how you connect into yourself. Because if you are embodied in your best self, your true self, your authentic self, this is how you help others rise. This is how you show them the way. You literally grab their hand energetically and just come on this way. This is how we do it. And they get to find their path. They get to find their truth. They get to find their happiness by being embodied in themselves and having you as an incredible leader. And the best part about that is just because I may be an empowered leader for you in one aspect of your life, doesn't mean that you can't be an empowered leader for me. Teacher, student, teacher, they go both ways. So when I think about what it means to be an empowered leader and how the world needs all of us to show up in this capacity, I was trying to think of a way to explain it, a way to break it down. And in order to be empowered as a leader, I believe that you need to be an expert in your life. Now, what that means is not necessarily that you are the best person who has ever lived life in any capacity, but you are so diligent about what you need and who you are that you become an expert in your own life. Because if you can have that expert status in who you are, everybody else will feel that energetically around you. They will not have to question whether or not they can trust you, whether or not you have integrity, whether or not what you are saying is true, because you are so embodied in that truth for yourself, because you are an expert in what you need and who you are. So when it comes to being a life expert, the first thing that you need to know is what it feels like to be alive. Take a moment and just breathe into your lungs, all the way down to the bottoms of your lungs and all the way to the back of your body. Notice what that feels like to expand those big, beautiful balloons in your chest to their full capacity. This teeny tiny experience is step 1 into becoming an empowered leader. Because if you don't know what it feels like to breathe deeply into your body, how are you going to help someone step through a situation in their life where they're terrified? Come up against a block and help move them through that? How are you going to empower them to rise without being able to breathe into your own body? Let's do that one more time. Breathe in. All the way into the bottoms of your lungs, the backs of your lungs, and feel that fresh breath filling your body, and let it go. I want you to consider for a moment someone in your life that has had a really big impact. For me, it was my mom. She was a very influential individual in my life. The one person in my family that I felt like actually understood me as cute little Deanna, just bouncing around with her skirt in the air and playing in the fields. And unfortunately, when I was 19, I had the experience of losing her to cancer. And I witnessed her journey as she went through the chemotherapy and the holistic route, and nothing was working, and eventually the cancer took her life. But the biggest thing that I learned from that was what it means, and not even what it means, what it feels like to be around someone who is empowered in their leadership. Someone who allows their life to first be them and next be everyone else. Because when we choose ourselves first, we are choosing everyone else around us. And that's what my mom did. I remember literally writing to her in her birthday card, her last birthday before she passed, "Mom, you are making this so easy for me." We knew it was terminal at this point. I said, "Mom, how are you making this so easy? I'm the one supposed to be making this better for you. You're the one who's dying." And yet she had that ability to so deeply embody into herself, to empower me to feel secure, to feel safe, to feel supported and loved while she was going through her journey, while she was passing. That is an empowered leader. That is an individual who understands what it takes to help others embody themselves, because all of us need it so bad. This is how we move through the pain. This is how we move through the trauma and the fear and the emotional blocks and everything else that is holding us back. We step into ourselves. We look around us for support. We ask for someone to show up and be our teacher. We ask for someone to show up and be our leader, our mentor, that person that can actually make a difference in our lives. Because when it comes to leadership, when it comes to being empowered and empowering others to be the best version of themselves, to make the choices that will serve not only them, but everyone else in this world. When it comes to serving humanity, leadership always begins within. Thank you.